All right, you guys, welcome Centerline Systems. Yeah, we're good to go. There seems to be a little bit of a weird lag when I'm starting these videos. So hopefully you didn't just sit there and see me for 5 seconds doing nothing, wondering what's going on. Hey, in this video, and if you did, I apologize. There is something weird going on. Hey, but in this video, I'm going to introduce just some little fun things that we're going to do going forward. And one of them has to do with knot tying. I've mentioned this before. I'm going to do a knot of the month going forward. And I'll give an explanation of the knot. This video, I'm going to show you how to tie the knot, and all of the hanging tags for the rest of this month will have that knot. That knot will be part of the hanging tag. Now, there's some knots I want to introduce that I don't know if I'll be able to do it quite with the hanging tags because they're joining knots. And, but I'll just figure it out. We'll worry about that when we get there. So let me do this. A new thing I'm learning is I like it if I'm doing these videos where it's just me, bring it all the way up so I can actually better see and get a sense of what you guys see. Okay, so before I talk about the knot, and today's knot is going to be the Bowline knot, right? It's a very useful knot for a multitude of applications. I'll get in that in a second. But the reason I'm doing the knots is because we're just having a little fun. Now, and I'm going to be including little just goofy things. And one of the goofy things I'm going to do, so when you get your receipt, and it usually comes in this bag right here, and don't throw this away. I don't seal it up, even though it's got the perforations and the tears up front, but I leave it unsealed because it's totally seal it back up and use it for something. I'll put items in there, whatever, just it's reusable. I hate using packaging. And that's why we do the shock cords and everything. I just hate doing packaging that you're just going to throw away because I have to charge you for that. And that's BS. Hey, at least with this thing, you can reuse it. Find a use for it. Toiletries, writing supplies. Speaking of writing supplies, so one of the things that's going to be in there besides your invoice is a little plastic bag. I just found these. I had these from years ago. So I got a bunch of them. I'm just going to burn these up, use them up. And I'll throw a couple stickers in there. And then here's my new thing. Let's see if we can do it. And then you can kind of see it. It's a little shiny for the light, but inside of there's a crayon, an army man, and it's always backwards. I was screwed up. And then a P38 can opener from Shelby Company. That's an American company, American-made original P38. Not some cheap-ass made in China. Crayola crayons, made in America, boys and girls. And then the army men, I got to give these guys a shout-out. I found these guys a long time ago. I had a bunch. I just thought they're really cool. They're that light, a little bit better. But that's a Tim Me company. And those are all made in America. I was really happy to find that. Is anything plastic made in America anymore? So good on you guys, Tim Me. But yeah, like an army man, why not? They're just kind of fun and stupid. P38. Well, you'll get some use out of that if you know what it is and how to use it. It's a can opener, right? Maybe I'll do a special video on showing you how to use that thing. Let me back up. It's too much mark even for me. And then the crayon, well, if you know, no explanations needed. And if you don't know, no explanations is possible. There's no choice in the army men or the crayons. I bought a bunch of boxes of these. I got them all a little thing. I just shake them up, eyes closed, and just whatever I grab and throw there in there is what I grab and throw in there. But so that's one of the things that we're doing. And then the other one is I really wanted to do some high-viz shock cord. Shock cord is what I use for the hanging tags. And look, don't throw this stuff away. There's so much use for the shock cord and the shock cord keeper. That's why I'm using it, right? It's not a piece of string or something you're going to cut and throw away. You can reuse these things and find so many values or ways to use the shock cord and the shock cord keeper. So don't throw that away, right? It's something that you can use and hopefully you do use. So we're going to do all the hanging tags in the orange. And for some knots, well, so here, for example, so a bowline, I can tie a bowline and have the hanging tag in the bowline, right? But then this all is just kind of a loose noodle after that. I guess I would wrap that around some other part and then, or tie another bowline and then attach it to your gear. So I'm not 100% sure how the knot one is going to work, but I am going to send you a sample of that knot of the month. Because again, sometimes if I'm doing a joining knot, getting way ahead of myself, I might want to use a different color piece of shock cord. So you got an orange and then a black, and then you can see how the knot goes a little bit more. But without further ado, let's get into the bowline. So look, I'm not trying to, there's a million knot videos out there and people doing them. So, go watch them. Actually, you should learn how to tie knots. So, we got 12 months in the year. I definitely think you need to know 5 knots, put them in your hip pocket. So I'm going to try to give you a good variety of knots as we continue going forward this year. And knots that I think have value. And I think the bowline has value for a variety of reasons. But before, and again, I'm not claiming to be Mr. Climbing K2 or Everest kind of guy or any of that. A lot of backwoods experience, just as a kid growing up, learn how to tie my shoes. I know that sounds stupid, but there are definitely different ways to tie your shoes, tie your boots. Guys in the military, who've been in the military, you know what I'm talking about. You've probably seen that or experimented with it. But if you do anything with ropes, right? And so for me in my military side, my first duty station was 101st. Even though it's airborne, it's air assault, right? So went to air assault school, lots of knots there because you're learning how to sling load and tie things down for air assault operations. And then later in my military career, I went off and got rappel master qualified. And then, so now you're the guy who rigs up all the towers for rappelling. And that's tons of fun. I mean, not going to lie. If I could, what's my example here? Like if I could, I'd have like a 40-foot, 80-foot Sealand container stacked on end, a little staircase, or in my case, like an elevator or a dumbwaiter to get up to the top. And then you could just practice, rappelling down it all day long and just have tons of fun. So the bowline is a good knot for that. And then, so again, I was kind of saying, hey, but I'm not trying to be a mountaineer or tell you what to do. I will just say this: ropes have stretch. Not all ropes are equal. Some people would say, what's a rope? No, there's different types of ropes and they all have stretch. They all have different variables, factors to them, and knots do as well. So the one thing I do want to leave you with is wherever possible, where you can just have the strength of the knot, or correction, the strength of the rope being the device that's actually doing the towing or holding your weight, or as you're come along, that's what you want, because knots reduce the strength of the rope. I mean, that's what they taught us anyway. So hey, I'm going to show you how to do a bowline. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and look, and this knot is very versatile. So here I just tied one up earlier. Well, like I said, so when you tie, you can actually tie the knot, and like I just did it on the hanging tag, but imagine this was a tree. I could have, like this, I could have tied this knot and snugged it up around the tree itself, and then had my free end running down. But for me, if you were going to do something like that, this is what I'm getting at. Or even if it's an anchor point for rappelling, wrap the rope around that anchor point, that device, whatever it is. So like imagine this was my anchor point. I would wrap the rope around it a couple times, and then there's that bowline right there, and that's a great knot. And then I could just, if you wanted to, depending on how much of the running end you had left, but I could pull all that through and then just secure it that way. You don't need a carabiner all the time. That's not going anywhere. And that double wrap is, so all the tension and friction of the weight is actually going to be on those ropes. But if you don't do that, and if you want to be, high speed, just slap a carabiner in there and then carabiner to your rope. And then that way it's not going anywhere. And that's your you're doing the same thing in essence, right? But those are some options. And that's why I think a bowline is really a good knot. And you can tie them, and you could do it in multiples. You could just keep doing this as long as you had rope. And this could be an anchor point. This could be an anchor point. I could have another separate anchor point if you were concerned about like, well, that anchor point doesn't look really good, so I want to have a backup. I want to have a redundant anchor point. And on rappel towers, you definitely do that. Even though I was wrapping the rope around the main support bar, tie down bar, so the tension is really on the rope, not the knot. And the knot was just to keep the rope from, sliding off. But you would still run a secondary off to the side to a secondary tie down point. Because if there was failure, hey, if you can get away with it, you're having fun, you're doing stuff. You don't need to take unnecessary risks. Have redundancy, have multiple tie down points. Could save your life, in case you did something stupid and wrong. So here I'm going to zoom in. And like I said, I'm not trying to be a knot channel. And there are good knot channels out there. Just go look. Maybe I'll put a link to one of them in here. So I'm just going to show you how to tie a bowline. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. You've got to figure out what works in your head. You know, for me, you'll see some people like say, hold it in your hand like this and do that. You know, you do you. I mean, if that's what it takes for you to remember how to do the knot. But so, you know, this is the end of my rope, right? This is going to be where my knot's going to be. And this is the end of the rope that's going to keep going for another, you know, 70, 90, however long your rope is, right? That's what I got going on here. So this is the end that's going to continue on. This is the end where I want to have my tie down. So I just take it, and from the end that's going to keep going, I just bring it over towards the tie down, and I made a loop. And I'm going to just dress this up a little bit as we do it just for the video. So I've made a loop, and the end that is going to continue going down, that's closest to me. Again, you could do it the other way if you want. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but just if you follow these steps. And then for that end, I just take it and I make another bite, because that's just what that is. That's a bite. And I make another bite, you know, which is a loop. You see what I just did? I just kind of pushed up, see how it's doing that. And then I just put that right through that first loop. So you can see I've got two kind of loops going on here right now. It's going to be a bite on a bite. That's all it really is. And then with the end, you know, this is the end that's running towards the ground. This is the end. That's my last part. Just come through it and go over the top, right? And now I've got a bite going right here. So I've got a bite on top of a bite on top of a bite. Now this end, just pull it. It'll start coming over the top, and then it comes over the top. And if you've done it correctly and just mess with it, you know, and this is shock cord, so it's loose. It's not like super rope, but here, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Not that you need to see my ugly face, but so, and see, this is where I might want to do the multiple colors so you can see these more. But if you look, that might help. If you can kind of see inside of that, that's a bite right there. And then that's a bite right here going on top of itself. And then inside of the knot is this last little piece. And if you were in the military, say it right now before I go any further. A knot isn't complete until what? Until you put in a half hitch, right? So because this knot, you know, if I dress it up and tighten it up, it's going to be really good. Again, it's a really good knot. And the reason I'm including it, not just because of the utility and how you can use it, but if you know how to attack it, so to speak, it's and if there's a lot of stress on the knot, if that's where the weight management is, it's a good knot to attack and how you can break it back open, you know, without having to like, screw it, I'll just cut that part of the rope off. So when you get this, you'll be able to just look at it and you'll say, oh yeah, that's a bite. There you go. But now I've got this last little tag end, and it's on the inside. If you can see here, I'll do it this way. Try it one more. No, you can probably see right there. You can see it's on the inside of that loop. This loop is what I want. That's where my carabiner, that's what I'm going to loop around something, and I'm going to like run my rope back through it. You know, again, you could just do this, and that's around the tree. And then now you're just doing this, because then it's really the rope that's actually doing it. And the knot is actually just a safety device to make sure the rope doesn't come out. But in the military, you guys know what I'm talking about. This can never be like this, and a knot is not complete unless you do what? That is correct. You got to do a half hitch. So you just put a little half hitch in there, and then you dress it up, and you'll end up having a knot like that, right? Hopefully my green hoodie and my awesome shorter beard shows it off a little bit. But there it is. An end of the line bowline, midline bowline, just a bowline, you know, end of the line. And then you can, like I said, you can keep that line running and add multiple bowlines in there for multiple anchor points. And as I showed you, you know, look, I might just tie the hanging tags off. That's all I did is I kind of explained that once, but I'll just do it real quickly again. So again, when you attack it, that one bite that's holding your free end, that's all you have to do is you just kind of just keep moving it towards you. And then that's going to loosen up, and then you can just pull the rope right through and you're good to go. And then you'll be left with a little granny knot like that. So, oh yeah, I know what I was going to do. So yeah, so you just do this, get her going. And if you want this knot to be around an object, so this is the end of the rope. This I would wrap around here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. If I move that back, there we go. Yeah, there we go. I think you can see that. I'm just going to tie this knot and secure it around the base of the microphone. So all I have to do is I'm going to come up here so you can see it. Yeah, I just ran it through around the microphone, back on itself, did the bite, pulled it, and I would put a half hitch in there still, but There it is. Now it's secured to my microphone, right? It's a really easy knot to learn. So don't overthink it. That's what I'm saying. There's a million ways. Some people, oh, the rabbit goes around the tree and jumps on the smoky dog and then over the moon or whatever. I mean, whatever mnemonic or learning tool you need to use, practice is, for me, practice is the best one. I like talking it out loud when I'm doing it, getting it into my brain. That helps me work, getting my hands moving, and then just practice. Because just like anything, if you don't do it after a while, you know, you got to get back on the bike and figure out how to ride again. So vroom, vroom, baby, vroom, vroom. All right, that's my knot video. Hopefully you thought it was a little bit entertaining, and we'll do a different knot per month. I'll do a little video. The next ones won't have, like, you know, comments about Crayolas. You know who you guys are. Yut. Sorry. But if you got questions, comments, oh, here, I got to get out of this mode here. There we go. Now I can see the whole screen and all the little buttons and wazoo things that are now all new. Got to relearn the whole program, but that's it. The Bowline Knot. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, you know, leave comments on below. Like the video, subscribe, share, all that stuff, because it really is true and it does matter. And more importantly, though, if you ever have any questions or comments, reach out to me. Call me. I answer the phone. I call people back. We don't pretend you never reached out to me, right? So no, we're good at that. I take great pride in that. So reach out if you got questions, comments. I'll do the best I can to help you out. Until then, as always, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. All right, boys and girls, we'll see you next time. Be good. Woo!